that look he has as you see him from like it's like 3/4 on, you see the expression as as this is happening, and it's this guy pursuing this project, looking at something to do with this conspiracy from the outside in. This guy who is putting himself in these positions to be lonely and isolated, looking at someone have something different, and then watching them leave that something to go and kind of enter the world that he's in. I think there's a lot thematically happening as well.
I also think there's just some interesting ambiguity as to like how he lingers on watching Selena change and stuff like that. Like, is this like, is he looking through an asexual lens? Is he being a bit pervy? Like, it's sort of like unclear. Is he just heavily on the spectrum, all of the above?
Right.
I think it's a bit of some interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, because I would have had far fewer questions if he stays focused on Annika, and because like she's talking about something related to the case, or something that he is there for, and so if he stays focused on her, and then he's just like, "What's Selena doing? Back to her. What's Selena doing? Back to her." If it was something like that, then I would have had like far fewer questions because I understand the motivation. So like so many of my gripes, it's all about just what's in his head, without me having to just totally infer it.
I don't know that you. The scene to me is pretty clear. She goes in, Annika's upset. She's like, "Hey, calm down. I'm gonna go deal with this," and then Batman watches Selena go and leave to go and deal with it. Like, I think it's pretty ipso facto A to B for my money. Like, I don't know it. And then you're like, okay, what does solve it? What does dealing with this mean? Like, what is Selena going to go and do? That is then that's the next breadcrumb in the investigation, right? But I understand what you're saying. Okay, so we get this aside where they go to he follows her to the penthouse. Then Catwoman drills the mayor's safe to get Annika's passport. Batman intervenes. And they narrowly avoid getting caught by the police guy who's on duty. They have a brief tussle up, and then they have like a weirdly intimate silent scene where he's sort of trying to get her not to say anything while the guard comes by. That again, I think to Pat's point earlier, the ambiguity is really interesting, where it's impossible to tell if there's any sexual chemistry here. It super feels like there is, but it also is just this. It's such a weird moment that ambiguity really works for me between these characters.
Yeah, well, it's because he is actually trying to do stuff in that silence. He's trying to restrain her to get the passport, but obviously it looks like there's some tension there or something like that.
Yeah.
But again, he's just so stoic that you can't really reasonably conclusively say that this is what he's feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think every kiss she initiates. So is he into it at all?
Exactly. And when they kiss, he just sort of stands still and lets it happen. Like, man, I'm getting more and more convinced that he's really on the spectrum in this movie.
it's certainly a vibe. I'm kind of into that. Let me move us through some material, because we're sort of we're long in the tooth here, and we're sort of coming up to some of this stuff coming together. So back at the apartment, Annika's gone, and the place is trash, and there's just cats everywhere. And we overhear Commissioner Savage's death on TV, and we get the Riddler announcing himself video. This is the moment that I think is most compared to the implementation of Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, where you get the those sort of not found footage, that's not the right word, but that style of the Joker videos in that film. I think a lot of people incorrectly try and compare Dano's performance to Ledger's because of that mechanistic similarity.
That did not occur to me. I was thinking about the Unabomber and stuff.
That's 100% what it's supposed to be. That, to be clear, is what this film is doing. The people make the mistake of going, "Oh, well, but it wasn't as scary as the Riddler's one," and it's like, well, this is supposed to be upsetting, but it's also supposed to come across like it's supposed to come across exactly what just Patches said, which is like the Unabomber, which is like this kind of is a guy who like doesn't. This isn't what he's making a thing. He's shooting for Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight and missing by a wide margin. It just ends up being upsetting more than it does scary.
Yeah, it's very upsetting. Very effective.
Yeah, it's Commissioner Savage in this weird contraption with like a rat that's running around biting him and shit. And yeah,
Saw trap, jigsaw trap.
Such a jigsaw trap, dude. This guy, this guy's workshop. When we see it later, I'm like, this man is building stuff. This man is going to Bunnings Warehouse every week to pick up new shit. Like, he's really doing it. Do you guys have anything on the Riddler reveal, or should we talk about the Savage kind of? I guess the iceberg lounge is really the next scene, like the 44 below.
Just that it's. I mean, on a first watch, you're pretty confused as to what the hell Riddler's motivation is here, and I feel like this is a big step where he says, "I will keep killing and killing until the truth about our city will finally be unmasked."
Mm-hmm. Right, with no context of what that means.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's. I don't know. I think we forget just how like sort of confusing this movie was on a first watch. But that I don't know. I like that line and the way he delivers it. He goes like he's like really unhinged.
Oh yeah, he's sort of. It's like a screech almost.
Yeah. But
I mean, the ambiguity is what makes this film that's what allows this film to be so vibes based. Is that they set these things up and they just leave them and they go, okay, you figure it out. Like and like as the film comes together later, you do start to put it all together. But the fact that it doesn't feel the need to explain itself at any point is, I think, a real strength of how daring this film is in being the thing it is. Like, it is so specifically doing this thing and not unapologetically doing this thing. And that to me is the best kinds of noir stories. Like the best Raymond Chandler stories are ones where you spend a lot of the story being like, I am trying to put this together, but there's this like fog of war that gradually falls away, and then suddenly it clicks into place and it's go time, which is how this film works as well. Yeah.
It's interesting talking about that performance, because that was something specifically my brother stated as being a big grievance for him, was that that's quote unquote not what the Riddler acts like. That's not how he talks, that kind of stuff. And we had a lot of preconceived notions coming into this show as what these characters should be. And so this version of the Riddler just hit us as just being done wrong. That's not true. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. Once I kind of tried to get out of that mindset, and I'm like, okay, this is just like more of a crazy dude, and he likes puzzles. So if I'm like, okay, he's the puzzler, and then I'm okay, yeah, I'm over it. It's a different dude. He acts different, and he's crazy. And I really like the laughing and the weird breathing over the mask, and like all this stuff was cool. I had to get over those expectations of what I had thought Riddler was going to be.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. This comes back to like what this film imagines these things can be, like the possibility space it's playing in, to be like, this is a character with some of the traits that we expect, but they are not fully comported into the character that you're expecting, or they're not there yet. You can imagine in 2 films' time, maybe he becomes more of the thing you're expecting, where he refines this. Like everything in this film feels so raw and like unrefined that it makes sense for the Riddler to be that way for me, because it is very much off a piece with the rest of it.
And actually, it might be because it was like the laughter and the jokes that was kind of like missing, although there was a little bit of it there. But it could be that it's his friendship with the Joker that's introduced at the very end that turns him into that character that we remember. That's possible. Yeah,
exactly. But the fact that there's possibility for that, and it doesn't give us a fully formed thing that we recognize, is a real strength of this character. And because that also lets the thing that we talked about earlier, which is that anyone could, in theory, go out and do this work that he has put forward, it sticks that more. Because he doesn't feel like he's refined or a particular type of guy yet. He feels like of a class of a type of guy, if that makes sense.